Do you want to know how to get the most out of your workout? In this video, I'll reveal the third basic weightlifting principle that will increase the effectiveness of your workout and help you get amazing results. Welcome back, guys. So today we'll be discussing the third principle of weight training, which in my acronym is represented by the letter R, and it stands for range. Just a quick recap. The acronym FIRST that I told you about in my first video, a link to which you can find in the description, represents the 5 basic weight training principles that you need to remember when working out if you want to get the most out of your workout. As I told you in the first episode, the first principle is working on the correct muscle fiber. The second is working on the muscle fiber with the proper intensity. And in today's video, I'll tell you how to overload the entire range of a movement to get the most out of your workout. But before we get there, let's start with some basics. The purpose of our muscles is to facilitate movement. And we have over 200 muscles because our body can move in a variety of ways. But every movement has a range. Some people are more flexible than others, and their movements have a potential for a greater range. Some people are not as flexible and have a shorter range. When lifting weights, the range of muscle movement is very important because scientific evidence is clear that to attain the largest amount of muscle possible, in other words, to get the most out of your workout, you have to overload the muscle throughout the entire range of a movement. To some people, this may sound as simple as just lifting the weights, but it's actually not. The reason being that our muscles are not equally strong throughout the range of a movement. Simple body mechanics tells us that extended extremes are the weakest and most susceptible to injury. Let's take the biceps as an easy way for you to visualize this. The biceps is responsible for flexion of the arm at the elbow. Now, when lowering a weight, we get to a point called the lockout, where the biceps is no longer under a load and other muscles jump in to support the weight. As some of you may know, most trainers will tell you to stop the weight before you get to that point so you can keep the biceps under pressure. So the general advice is to keep the elbow slightly bent. For simplicity's sake then, the general guidelines are that your full range of motion will be around 95% of the possible range of motion in that joint. Now, if you're lifting a weight that's pretty heavy at the 95% of your range, that weight is really not that heavy for the shorter ranges, because the shorter the range, the stronger you are. Which means that if you're only performing repetitions at the 95% of your range, you're effectively overloading that extreme, but you're not overloading the stronger portions of your range. So the inherent weakness of the extreme will limit the muscle overload in the strong part of your range. To summarize this, the third weightlifting principle of optimizing your workout so you can get the most out of your workout is to overload the muscle in both the weak and the strong portions of the movement. This is a common practice among some of the best bodybuilders of all times, and for a good reason, because it works. And here we get to the last part of the video, where I tell you exactly how this technique can be incorporated into your workout. Generally, there are 3 ways to increase the load on the stronger portion of your range. The first is performed at the end of each set, meaning that when you cannot lift this weight for the full range anymore, then you shorten the range from 95% to 75%. What you will notice is that you can do another 3 or 4, if not more, repetitions. The extra repetitions will give your body a greater anabolic stimulus and you will see better results. Some sports that need to focus on explosiveness like jumping or extreme strength at the short range like arm wrestling train at even lower than 50% of the range. For our purposes, however, we don't need to go that low because that gets into sport-specific exercises. For bodybuilding, where you're trying to build the most muscle by effectively overloading a larger portion of your range, that is usually achieved by lowering your range to about 75%. The second way of overloading the full range of a movement is to use limited range exercises in addition to the full range exercises. That could be exercises like the leg press, where you're not going as low as the squat, but you can safely load a whole lot more weight and get a larger stimulus in the strong range. Another favorite of mine is the Smith machine lunge. When performing a lunge, you're also not going as low as the squat, but you can safely load a larger weight that will help you work on the strong portions of your muscles. Limiting the range in this way is also a good idea if you have an injury, because you're better off training the 75% of the range than aggravating the injury or not doing anything at all. The third and final way of overloading the muscle throughout the full range of a movement is with the help of chains or resistance bands. Both chains and resistance bands can be used during exercises like the squat, the bench press, and the deadlift, just to name a few. How they work is by increasing the load in the stronger portion of the range while easing up during the weaker portion of the range. As you can see in this example, when performing the regular deadlift, the most difficult portion is lifting the weight off the floor. But the higher you lift the weight, the easier it gets. For that reason, you could attach a resistance band. Just as a side note, there are many types of bands and you will probably be able to use most of them. So what you do is attach the band underneath the middle of your foot, because that's where the bar is supposed to stand. When you begin to deadlift again, you will notice that the band is providing additional tension in the stronger portion of your range. Alright guys, this is all for this video on overloading the entire range of a movement. Hit the like and subscribe so you can be notified when I release next week's video on the fourth weightlifting technique that is essential to getting the most out of your workout. See you next week.